What's good, YouTube? It's your boy TSO Sage, and I'm back with another video. Now, is there a person in this world who doesn't like Derrick Rose? In terms of fan to hater ratio, he has to be the most liked player in the league, right? Like, there's a lot of messed up people in this world, but I don't think anyone with a soul could look at Derrick Rose and what happened throughout his career and just not like the guy. However, even though we all love Derrick Rose, unfortunately, he is nowhere near the player he was in 2011. However, because people cling to that 2011 season that they beloved so much, people end up overrating or even underrating Derrick Rose. Because you have some people who think he's an all-star in disguise, but you also have other people who think he barely belongs in the league. It's kind of died down lately, but not too long ago, a bunch of Derrick Rose to the Lakers rumors were definitely in the air. And as a result of these rumors, a bunch of people put their scouter on and tried to assess how good Derrick Rose is, which you wouldn't think is a hard thing to do. But you got some people thinking he's a starter, some people thinking he's a six man, some people think he barely belongs in the league, some people think he's an all-star. And granted, a lot of people think differently about a lot of different players. But I haven't seen so many highs and lows about a player, and I think it's more than just a scouter malfunction. So I really sat down and thought about it for a long time, and I came up with a conclusion as to why so many people think so many different things. We don't exactly agree on how good he was in 2011. Like, we don't exactly agree on how good a prime Derrick Rose really is. Everybody knows he was good, but we clearly don't agree on how good. Because in 2013, when Kobe tore his Achilles, the following season, we all knew that's not the same guy. But on top of that, a lot of people had a similar level into which we were like, okay, this is how good Kobe is. But with rating Derrick Rose today, it fluctuates so much, and I think it becomes down to the fact that with Kobe, we all knew how good Kobe was. So when Kobe fell off, we were like, yeah, that ain't Kobe at all. That's barely a starter, to be honest. Damn, I miss Kobe. But with Derrick Rose being so young and his prime being so short, I really think all the confusion about how good he is today is simply to the fact we don't know how good he was back then, or at least we don't agree on it. So in this video, I'm gonna briefly break down how good Derrick Rose was in 2011. How good was prime D Rose? And then after determining that, I'm going to then judge how good Derrick Rose is today. And I know some of you are probably typing already, Sage, you're way overthinking this, bro. It's just bias. Bias does definitely play a factor, but I promise it's not the only thing, and this video will definitely prove that. But let's not waste any more time here. If you guys like the video, don't forget to like the video, and let's get right to it. Prime Derrick Rose is easily one of my favorite players of all time. And although I never thought Derrick Rose would beat John Wall in a race, and if they both went to the combine, I think Russell Westbrook would actually outperform Derrick Rose. In terms of making plays on the basketball court, I think Derrick Rose was by far the most athletic point guard of all time. This is because Derrick Rose was not only shiftier, not only had better footwork, but he was so crafty in how he played, and he was a much better creator. This man, Derrick Rose, gets a centimeter less off the ground than Russell Westbrook, and is a pinky toe slower than John Wall, but he was far more skilled. Derrick Rose had a much easier volume, could get to any spot on the floor at any given time. Because although he wasn't quite Kyrie Irving or Steph Curry, he certainly had A-tier handles, no question. This dude would come down the court, size you up for 2 seconds, then plant his foot on the ground, and either give you the most troublesome hesitation you'll ever meet in your life, or he would spin off of that foot and beat you to the rim on the other side. And God forbid if this dude just stops and pulls up for a mid-range shot. And can we talk about his mid-range shot or his jump shot altogether real quick? I'm not sitting here to tell you that Derrick Rose is a sniper or anything by any means whatsoever. But let's just be honest here, due to the fact that people compare him to guys like Russell Westbrook and John Wall, they think he shot like Russell Westbrook and John Wall. I don't even need to talk about Russell Westbrook, that's just a common misconception. But although stats will tell you John Wall is a better shooter than Derrick Rose, I actually think Derrick Rose was the better shooter. And I think this for two very solid reasons. Reason number one, when you look at that 2010 to 11 Bulls team, it was a lot of great defense, no question. But almost all the offensive credit for that team goes to Derrick Rose without any question whatsoever. Well, let me take that back because they did have Goat Bryant at the time too. But looking at the rest of that roster, we have a Carlos Boozer where if it wasn't a mid-range, it weren't nothing. Luol Deng, who wasn't necessarily bad on offense, but come on now, Luol Deng being your second best scorer. Bro was a store brand Chris Middleton. Then you had your spot up shooters, guys like Keith Bogan, CJ Watson, Kyle Korver. And then you had your interior guys like Joakim Noah and Taj Gibson. If it's not obvious by now, Derrick Rose was pretty much responsible for everything that happened on the offensive end. Although this Bulls team wasn't sorry by any stretch of the means, their best players were defensive minded. Their expertise by no means whatsoever was scoring the basketball. In addition to that, Derrick Rose is pretty much the only guy on this roster that I would even trust dribbling the ball more than 5 times. And if you think I know this and a bunch of you know this, don't you think the teams in the NBA know this? As a result, unless bench players such as Kyle Korver or CJ Watson were in the game, why sag off of Derrick Rose when you could just double him? Teams were never like, okay, let's let Derrick Rose shoot him out the game. When again, the easier solution was to just suffocate Derrick Rose. And it's not like the Bulls were just like, okay, let's put Keith Bogans and Kyle Korver in the game all the time. That's not how basketball works. Real life basketball at the elite level isn't NBA 2K. One of the main flaws of this Bulls team is whenever they put their shooters in the game, their defense took a nosedive. It literally placed all defensive responsibility on either Taj Gibson or Joakim Noah. Which, fair enough, Taj Gibson and Noah definitely did that well as the Bulls won 62 games. But obviously, the most important aspects of them winning these games was the fact that Derrick Rose could hit jump shots while basically not being open all the time. Derrick Rose shot a lot of jump shots off the dribble, not because I think he's just a stupid player, he doesn't have any IQ. Derrick Rose is brilliant. But he shot a lot of moving shots because that was the only offense that he could create. If Derrick Rose didn't get himself open, he wasn't open. It took a long time to explain that for some reason, but the point is, compare that to guys like John Wall and Russell Westbrook, who teams literally dared to beat with their jump shots, leaving them borderline 10 feet open. Derrick Rose never had that luxury. Obviously, I can't go back in time and make people leave Derrick Rose open and see if he's really a better shooter or not, but the point of all of that was just to say that Derrick Rose's jump shot was certainly underrated, and by wide margin, Derrick Rose had the most offensive responsibility in that season. And despite the fact the entire NBA knows this and pretty much doubles Derrick Rose every other play, this man led the Bulls to 62 wins and had them 11th in offensive rating. And I have a whole video dedicated to the NBA awards, so I'm not about to debate between who should have won between him and LeBron, but it's very respectable that Derrick Rose won this MVP. So what is that, like 3-4 minutes of me just sicing Derrick Rose? It's not like I'm about to sit here for 3 minutes and slander Derrick Rose to make up for it, but Derrick Rose was certainly not perfect. For one, and I just got done talking about it, even though his jump shot was underrated, it still doesn't mean it was that good. Compared to John Wall and Russell Westbrook, he does have a pretty damn good three-point shot. But Derrick Rose wasn't exactly the most consistent three-point shooter, and the seldom times he did find himself open, it wasn't automatic. Like, imagine if Derrick Rose could shoot the ball as well as Zach LaVine does. Doubting LeBron James isn't necessarily the best thing to do, but I'm not gonna lie, I'd have to see it to believe it. That Bulls team would have been unbeatable. But we all knew that about Derrick Rose. We also know that he wasn't a lockdown defender. I don't need to waste too much time here with this one. He was clearly the worst defender in the starting lineup, and easily one of the worst on the team. However, he wasn't necessarily bad. This team was just crazy on defense. But yeah, Derrick Rose and defensive prowess don't exactly go together. And one of the least talked about things about Derrick Rose is the fact that his passing ability wasn't all that. He was a very mid passer. He did average 8 assists that season, but it wasn't due to the fact that he was a phenomenal passer or anything. Him being such a great scoring threat by default made him a good playmaker, but he wasn't necessarily fantastic or anything. Certainly, if he had better offensive players, his assist totals would be higher, but the point remains he still wasn't a phenomenal passer or anything. But all in all, you definitely have a Hall of Fame talent, at least for that season, but he also had the intangibles to play winning basketball and the mentality to close games. My personal belief is at some point in time we'd be calling him a champion, but you know, Tom Thibodeau is Tom Thibodeau, so yeah, we can't have nice things. And although we love Derrick Rose, let's just keep it 1,000 though. He's definitely all of the great things I said about him, but he wasn't exactly a new level of elite point guard that we never saw before. The athleticism was new, certainly, but let's keep it a buck. He's not better than a guy like Steph Curry. However, he is more comparable to guys like Damian Lillard. Now, Dame exactly wasn't an MVP. I think Derrick Rose wins that argument, but if someone told me that Dame was better than D-Rose, I'm not going to be triggered or anything. 2010, 2011 D-Rose was definitely electrifying, and he's as great as I said he was up to this point in the video, but people do tend to actually overrate this season. It's sad we'll never know what he could have been, but looking at those 2 seasons, he wasn't a Steph Curry, a Kobe Bryant, a LeBron James. He was great, no questions about it whatsoever, just great. But to put it plainly, there was a level of superstar that he just did not reach at that point in time. I'm not saying he couldn't have, I believe he could, but he didn't, and we'll never know if he could. But fast forwarding today, Derrick Rose is not quite the same player. Obviously, he's not as electric or explosive or anything of that nature, and he certainly isn't your MVP talent #1 option anymore. And although it'd be fun to say, oh, he's a way better passer, a way better defender, and I'd love to say he's a way better shooter, but none of those things are simply the case. The Derrick Rose today is quite literally a worse version of what we saw in 2011. However, there is one saving grace. Derrick Rose has improved in one aspect of basketball, and that's simply his mentality and outlook on the game. Granted, the defense isn't as intense, but he does find himself taking smarter shots. But most importantly to a guy like Derrick Rose is he's no longer trying to make that superhuman play. He plays the game much safer, and yet he's still effective, which honestly is the happiest thing for me to say, because a couple years ago you could not say that about Derrick Rose. Not too long ago he was clearly a player who's scared to get hurt. Even though he's not as athletic as he used to be, Derrick Rose is still athletic. Hell, I'll be the first one to say he's still one of the craftier players at the rim today. But now that he's not scared to make those plays at the rim, but he also lands safer, and he simply learned how to protect his body a lot better than he used to, resulted in not only a major confidence boost, but he's more efficient than he's ever been. Rather than making superhuman plays, Derrick Rose takes what the defense gives him. And even though it's the Pistons, so not a lot of people exactly are tightening up on him or anything, he did end up averaging 18 points on 49% shooting. So how good is Derrick Rose today? I'ma shock the world with this one. He's not an all-star in disguise or anything. If Derrick Rose was truly that good, he would have way better numbers than he did this season. He's not exactly a playmaker or anything, he's an isolation scorer. And not a lot of players in the NBA wake up to play defense against the Pistons. But me saying he's not an all-star in disguise doesn't immediately have me think that he doesn't belong in the NBA. We're not pulling any of that mellow shit with Derrick Rose. Funny enough, that's the exact level of talent I think Derrick Rose is. The only difference between the two is I think Melo is okay being a starter and Derrick Rose isn't. And that's only because Derrick Rose is a 6'2", 6'3" isolation scorer who isn't all-star caliber. Those guys typically don't start. But Derrick Rose can definitely lead your bench. Now, do I think Derrick Rose is a sleeper 6 Man of the Year candidate? I'm not gonna lie, I'd be shocked like a motherfucker. No chance in hell. I hate to say it, but Lemon Pepper Lou does what he does, but a lot better. And if Derrick Rose doesn't tighten up from 3, he won't ever be that guy to win 6 Man of the Year. But Derrick Rose can definitely give you crucial minutes on the team, even if that team has championship aspirations. To be honest, if he improved his 3-point shooting, Derrick Rose would no doubt be a starting caliber point guard. But only time can tell if those things are to come from him. But in conclusion, I think he's a really good player. I just pray that nobody puts too much pressure on him. He's not a starter, he's not a 6 Man of the Year candidate, he's certainly not the guy from 2011. But Derrick Rose would be a really good role player to a team that's trying to win a championship. And if there's one thing everybody watching this video can agree on, it's the fact that we're rooting for him. But that's gonna do it for today's video. It's been your boy TSO Sage. This was more of an informative style video, but it's really nothing to talk about, none for me to be mad at. So if you guys like the video, don't forget to like the video. If you like my content, subscribe. It means a lot. And it's been your boy TSO Sage. I'm gonna holla at y'all next video. Who the hell does he think he is? There's no way this is true. There's no fucking way this is true. I'm about to end my fucking video. I see this bullshit on Twitter. Like, there's no way this is true. Sizable contract. Yeah, bet. I was in a good mood. I was talking about Derrick Rose, but okay, bro, you're next. Yeah, all right. There's no way. Hey, y'all, if you like the video, don't forget to like the video. If you like my content, subscribe. It means a lot. It's been your boy TSO Sage. I'm gonna holla at y'all later. Take care and stay blessed. I'm gonna go work on this, bro.
You know we gang, y'all. You know we war G. You know we gang, y'all. You know we war G. We not in the game. 003. We not in the game. 003. You know we gang, y'all. You know we war G. You know we gang, y'all. You know we war G. We not in the game. 003. We not in the game. 003. Yes, sir.